Welcome to mudanddirt.com, Mad Motorsports. In this video we're going to do something a little bit more technical. We're going to show you how to install a Mr. RPM 840 big bore kit, and we are going to race it. The kit we received from the guys at MrRPMcycle.com includes everything but the tools and oil you need for the install. The kit includes 2 board and hone jugs ready for the bigger 93mm forged pistons. The kit also comes with the rings, the wrist pins, head gaskets, and 2 sets of base gaskets in different thicknesses. The cool thing about this kit is that you can install it on either a 800 or 650 Can-Am motor. For less than $1,000, you can add almost 200 cc's to a Can-Am Outlander 650. We also opted for the Mr. RPM Generation 1 cams. These cams are very unique in the ATV market because they are not welded up regrinds. These are new, fully heat-treated billet cams. Also, another plus about ordering them from Mr. RPM Cycle is that you do not have to send back your old stock cams as cores. The quad that we're going to be installing this kit on is a 2009 Can-Am 800R. It has an HMF exhaust system, snorkels, EPI clutch kit, a 650 helix, and a power commander. We have already found a ton of horsepower in the tuning, but like many ATV racers, you never can have enough power. The plan is to do a side-by-side race with a modified 07 800 Outlander to get a base outlook on the power this 800R packs from the factory. Then we're going to pull it into the shop, install the motor kit, tune it using our wideband commander, and rerun them again. Thank you for watching, and please sit back and enjoy the video. Now that we have our results, let's take it back to the shop and install the 840. To start, we'll disconnect the battery, remove all the plastics, pull all the coolant lines off, disconnect all the snorkels, and pull the exhaust off. We also need to remove the air box, along with the throttle body. Before we go any further, I wanted to show you the proper way of disconnecting your fuel line. On the 09s and the 2010 models, they are here up at the front, up at the injectors. But on the older models, they're much further back, and there's only one of them, where here there's 2. A lot of people are taking screwdrivers and prying up underneath here, and they prying them up, they're prying them on the bottoms, and they're breaking these little clips. Well, that is the wrong way of taking these fuel lines apart. Let me show you how to do it. Take the fuel line, press it in, put your finger, press on that little button right there, and it will come off. We can now disconnect the injector wires and remove the intake manifold. Alright, what we got here is your water line that goes from your front head to your back head. Your front head here, up underneath the water neck, is where your thermostat is at. And your thermostat basically sits in your water neck like this, and the O-ring that goes around seals it. Well, what a lot of guys are doing is they're removing the thermostat, and they're getting the same part that's in the back water neck, this little gasket here, putting the front, ordering the same part, so you have one in the back and one in the front, and installing it back on there. This takes your thermostat completely out of line. It makes the foiler run cooler and actually solves a lot of overheating issues. And that's all it is.
We now can remove the valve covers and the spark plugs.
Now that the valve covers are off and the spark plugs are out, now's the perfect time to put this motor at top dead center. We're going to put our rear cylinder at top dead center first and actually work our way forward. To remove that, we're going to take our crank position sensor out, and we're also going to take this plug out, and the crank actually is keyed on the inside. With our crank sensor out, now we need to take our plug out to access the crank. You need a 14 millimeter to get this plug out. The biggest one that I have is a 10 millimeter. And so, where a lot of people doesn't have a big, huge assortment of Allen wrenches, a lot of people has a lot of bolts hanging around. And so, I found this in my toolbox. We matched it up, and the head fits perfect. So I'll jam two nuts together, put it in there, and I can take our plug out. With our plug out, as you can see, the crank is also keyed with Allen, because again, I don't have the right size Allen head to turn the crank. I looked in my bolt box, and I've got a 9/16 bolt. Took two nuts, jammed them together. It fits exactly the way it should inside the crank. So now, let's go through, take my ratchet, put it on it, and I can turn the motor over.
To set our number 2 cylinder to top dead center, we rotated the motor until the number 2 mark on the flywheel was centered in our crank position trigger hole, and the marks on the rear cylinder's timing gear were parallel with the top of the cylinder head. From this timing point, we can set our number 1 piston to top dead center by rotating the crankshaft 280 degrees counterclockwise until the number 1 mark can be seen, and the marks on the front cylinder's timing gear is parallel with the top of the cylinder. During the teardown and rebuild, the motor will need to be rotated to raise the front piston up out of the block. You can just rotate the motor until the number 1 mark is visible. You do not have to rotate the number 1 piston to top dead center, but remember to rotate the motor back to the number 2 piston top dead center after the teardown. With our motor at top dead center, we can remove the chain tensioners, the cam sprockets, and cylinder heads. The jugs can also be removed, along with the pistons, making sure we do not drop the wrist pin clips into the bottom of the motor.